We've got a lot of different topics to talk about. Which one will Neal spend the most time on? I don't know. Stay tuned to find out. NFL playoff fears from a Chiefs perspective, some Jayhawk hoops, Sporting KC news, Royals moves, college football playoff. But, Neal, we start with the NFL because the Chiefs are king. I want to start with Wild Card Weekend. This was a topic that we were going to do on our Game Day pregame show. I want you to go through who you fear out of potential divisional round opponents for the Chiefs, okay? There's 4 options. You can rank them however you see fit. You've got the Chargers, the Texans, the Steelers, the Broncos. Who should Chiefs fans root for this weekend?
I kind of think the Broncos are the most dangerous of that group.
Really?
The Chargers have the better quarterback, probably have, well, I don't want to say the better coach because certainly Jim Harbaugh is great, but then so the Broncos have a really proven coach. They both have Super Bowl rings, right?
Right.
Although one of them is a championship ring, and one of them is I got to the Super Bowl and got beat by my brother ring. But the Broncos worry me a little bit. Their defense is really, really good. They've had some success against the Chiefs. Yeah. They should have won that game at Arrowhead, so I guess that's the one that worries me the most. Although I do think all of those teams are capable if they play their A game and the Chiefs turn the football over a few times. I think the Chiefs are vulnerable to be beat.
So I agree that Chiefs fans should root for, okay. So who are you rooting for then between the Bills and Broncos if you're a Chiefs fan?
Well, I think that both teams are capable of beating the Chiefs, but the Bills have the better quarterback.
Right.
They're more explosive. Their defense, I'm not sure. I think they're beaten up a little bit right now, so I'm not sure how great they've been the last couple of weeks. But the fact is, you asked me which of the lower-seeded teams.
But because of that, if the Broncos beat the Bills, which in this scenario, that gets Buffalo out of the picture, well, then the Broncos are coming to Arrowhead. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. And that's where I think you're right in that I would rather play the Texans or the Steelers.
Right.
Those teams aren't great. But if the cost is Josh Allen's Bills, at the only team that's beaten the Chiefs this year when it mattered, if the Broncos can get them out in the wild card round, I would take that because I still think Kansas City can beat Denver.
I would just as soon not see either of those teams right away.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, it would be wonderful if the Steelers, a football team, the coach is really under fire up there.
Yeah.
Mike Tomlin, you would think, would be a made man. You would think that he would be
just
safe
no playoff
matter
success in the last decade.
And, it's been a long time for them in the postseason, so there's a lot of pressure on him. And then the Houston Texans limped into the postseason, and there are a lot of question marks about that football team. I like their quarterback, but people down there are kind of ripping on him.
Hey, struggle down the stretch, you're right.
And so, it's funny. I was looking at a thing. I think it was either on Google searches or there was another way to measure popularity and publicity and stuff. C.J. Stroud is 4th in the state of Texas behind the 2 Texas quarterbacks and then somebody else, Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
And it's like he doesn't even register. Well, where's Dak? Dak's at home as usual, okay?
Yeah, that contract for the Cowboys. That's where people blame Mike McCarthy. Listen, they paid so much money to Ezekiel Elliott, who was a bust. They paid so much money to Dak Prescott, who's not lived up to that. It's either Chiefs fans, be glad you're not Cowboy fans. Sorry, Rusty.
So you bring up an interesting thing. I believe that maybe some sanity might be coming to the quarterback market. I don't know that teams are going to throw massive amounts of money at a player who has one good season and they want to get him on a long-term deal. Because I think too many teams have been burned by it, and they're like, look.
But is it the only way you can win, though?
Well, you got to have a quarterback, but you got him for 4 years. You don't have to
draft, right? Okay.
You don't have to break the bank after they have a good rookie year, so now you want to get them on a long-term deal. Because you think, well, this is the way to do it. Let's get him now early. But then you pay all that money out, and the guy who had one good season or one good playoff run, now you're paying him all this money. I just think too many GMs have been hamstrung, too many franchises that have been killed. I do think that now people are asking the question, do you really want to give this guy all this much money?
Yeah, it's a darn if you do, darn if you don't, because you need a good quarterback to win in the playoffs. and the ones that do are going to cost a lot. You know, like I think Ravens fans are thinking they got a pretty good bargain for Lamar Jackson. Chiefs fans feel like they got a pretty good bargain for Patrick Mahomes based on how valuable he is. So you're right, and that's where I tend to, in the playoffs, Neil, want to avoid the better playoff quarterbacks. That's where, like, out of these 4 teams the Chiefs could face, the team I least want to face is the Los Angeles Chargers. Not that the Chiefs can't beat the Chargers, but I think Justin Herbert, he has a little bit of playoff experience. It was him taking a 28-0 lead and then blowing it, but he at least has one game compared to Bo Nix, doesn't have any experience. And I think Herbert is a better quarterback than Bo Nix. And so that's where I think the most likely outcome is the Chiefs will host the Chargers.
You know what? I agree with you about Herbert versus Nix. No question about it. But team-wise, you know, the Broncos,
right?
Their defense, I think, is legit. I think that they do give people problems.
The Chargers have done pretty well. Their schedule's about the same, I guess. So you think the Broncos' defense better than the Chargers' defense?
I think it might be right now. I tell you what,
okay. Well, don't tell me you're putting anything in that Chiefs game.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
I am not. But
they got toasted by the Bengals the week before.
They got beat in both games, but I don't think the defense let them down that much. I mean, they gave up 28 points with an overtime period. Yeah. So against a pretty good offense from I think we agree that the Cincinnati offense is pretty good, and they held them to 21 points through regulation. And
no, that's true. That's true.
So I don't. That's just
I don't love either.
It's a gut feeling more than anything, and I really respect Sean Payton. I think he's a really good football coach too.
And that's why, Neil, is so important to get this back, because every team, like if the Chiefs were the 2 seed, they would have to play the Broncos and run one, and here we are fearing them in the divisional round to a degree. And
not fearing them, respecting them.
Yes, exactly. In the ranking, saying that there is a world in which they lose, and that's the playoffs. Every week somebody can beat you, and the fact that the Chiefs took care of business in the regular season so that they avoid a crazy loss. You know, most of the time you're not going to get a team like last year's Dolphins team who came into the cold and really didn't have a chance, you know. And I think the Bills absolutely could get upset by the Broncos. And then, you know, we're talking about this 3-headed AFC monster of Chiefs, Ravens, Bills.
Well, don't you think we're going to learn? Okay, I think the Broncos are for real. I think they're a good team.
Okay.
But they lost 2 in a row on the road to playoff teams. They got beat twice in close games, about 1-score games. And so they came into the Chiefs game in a must-win situation. They basically had 3 weeks to win 1 game. And they finally got it done. If I'm wrong, if they are a pretender and Bo Nix is going to revert to what he was early in the year as a rookie coming out and unable to really read the defenses and do stuff. Okay, if that's true, we'll find out. I think that we'll find out up in Buffalo on Sunday whether or not he's for real. So I think that game's going to be fascinating. Fortunately, it is on TV. Where can you see it?
Hey, CBS, KCTV 5.
Right here on KCTV 5.
That's we won't find out till Sunday, so the Saturday games will tell us potentially the Chiefs will play, but it won't be for sure until that Sunday game. Interesting of note, Neil, you're right, the Broncos struggled a lot more earlier in the year, but in November, the Broncos did lose at the Ravens 41-10.
Yeah, they got
run.
Though, they got run.
I had forgotten about that. Then the Chiefs game, and then they've really picked it up since.
The word over there in Denver was this team quit.
Yeah,
this team quit.
Well, and they started 0-2.
But you know what? They came in here, and I thought they surprised me. I had no.
That's when they kind of turned their season, because they had also lost to the Chargers. They didn't play well. I think, Neil, that's a great point. The game that you saw from the sideline is where I think the Broncos really earned a lot of confidence.
And Nix played well. We knew he could run. He's a good athlete, and he can avoid sacks because of that. So he gained 3 yards. Well, that's better than losing 9 when you send a safety blitz, right?
Yeah.
So, but he also completed some passes.
He's got a high ceiling,
passes.
But it's still his first career playoff game as a rookie. This isn't a Patrick Mahomes scenario where it's his second year. This is still his first year. We know Sean Payton, though, is a good coach. No game will be easy. I'm excited to watch. It's going to be a fun weekend, Neil.
Let me ask you a question. I did a story today that ran on the KCTV 5 News at 4 o'clock that was basically about, you would think everybody in the playoffs is thrilled. I mean, everybody's happy. That the fan base is, man, this is so exciting. It's great. It's not really that way. In Baltimore, well, let's start with the seeds. The second seeds, the Bills. Josh Allen and Sean Payton, or Sean McDermott, their head coach, they have the weight of the world on their shoulders. If they somehow lose this game, people up there, and the Buffalo Bills fans are done.
It's AFC Championship game, Super Bowl or bust.
They are sick of hearing how great their coach is. I think that they think, okay, fine, we believe in our quarterback.
If they lose to Denver, he might be gone.
And I think that's possible. So there is a sub-story going on there below the surface.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pressure for them to take care of business and win. But not only win here, they need to win the next round. If they got to find a way to beat the Chiefs, because if we played them close, that's not good enough. That's 2
rounds from now. They're going to have to beat the Broncos, the Ravens, and then the Chiefs in order to be successful.
And the Ravens are in the same boat.
Yes.
As much as Lamar Jackson has done, and boy, he has done just about everything you can do in a regular season, he's got to win in the playoffs. And not just play well and lose. He needs to play well and win.
Right.
Their fans are so sick of it. And again, they have a proven head coach who has won a Super Bowl championship in John Harbaugh, and they've done a good job defensively most of the time he's been there. They got question marks up there. If they don't take care of business, it could be a bloodbath in the postseason. If not, at least the fans and the newspaper and all the critics online are going to want that. And the same thing, we just talked about the fact that Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh is under the gun. You better take care of business. There is some pressure on him. The Texans, I don't think they're going to make change in anybody.
Same with Chargers.
But they're limping into it. The Chargers are fighting a different battle.
Yeah.
They are fighting to try to be relevant in their in their market. They don't go to games. They're very seldom a home team. They're a lot like the Raiders. When you go to the games, the Dodgers are the number 2 story out there right now. The Lakers are number 1, even over the Rams.
Yeah.
The Dodgers, I was reading a thing that said that who hit the home run for the Dodgers?
Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman. He took his son and his wife and son. He took them to some children's thing. And it became, everybody went live.
Oh, yeah.
They dropped everything they were doing. The Chargers are trying to become relevant, sell tickets, be something other than an afterthought. And so, they did a great job by getting the hottest coaching commodity there is, a guy who spent time at Stanford, so the Californians and the 49ers, the people out there all know him. You know?
No, it's a great hire.
It was a great hire, but they need to. So there is a little bit of pressure on them to get something done.
I wouldn't put it at the same level as Baltimore and Buffalo, though.
And let's face it, here, if the Chiefs somehow whimper and have a 3-turnover game and get beat 13 points.
I don't care. No, it doesn't matter how, Neil, if they get beat.
But if they get beat by a great team that comes in and plays great, that's one thing.
No.
But if you stink it up, there'll be a lot of people like you who will fanboy who'll be going nuts.
No, it doesn't. No, you're wrong. It does not matter. I don't care if they play great and whoever they lose to has the greatest game of all time, Neil. This city is going to be absolutely livid if they lose before a Super Bowl. And now, if they lose in the Super Bowl, okay. But if they don't get to New Orleans, I don't care how it happens, barring a Patrick Mahomes injury, okay, then I would say, all right. But no. There's more expectations here than anywhere. Like, I don't know if this city is prepared. It's just been Neil, it's been so long since. Think about how things were the last time Chiefs lost a playoff game. Tyreek Hill was still on the team. Tom Brady was still in the league.
You had braces.
I had braces.
You still had braces.
Yeah.
Your imaginary girlfriend was in grade school or high. No, she would have been like in high school.
See, all right. I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that. Either way, I think there's a lot of pressure on this Chiefs team, just as there is elsewhere. But Neil, the difference is, there's always been pressure on this Chiefs team, and I think they're built for it more than the other teams. I think they feel it less than the other teams, especially because the Chiefs don't have to play the Chiefs, okay?
Yep.
Whatever pressure the Ravens and Bills feel right now, there's going to be even more when they got Patrick Mahomes looking at them on the other sideline. Someone who's knocked them out of the playoffs.
You make a great point. Think about it.
All right.
If the Raiders could play the Raiders twice, the Raiders would have 2 more victories.
Yeah.
They don't get to play the worst team in the history of modern football.
Yeah.
And so we get to benefit from that.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
A mental part of it.
In the NFL today, with the internet, with every game being on television all over the dial on different days, different times, and you're playing on Christmas Day, on Wednesdays, or doing all this stuff, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. The ratings go up and up and up, and the pressure goes up and up and up with it. It's not good enough to give it the old college try. Hey,
But
we had a good
they
season.
welcome
We
that.
played better. You better win in this league.
Yeah, and Mahomes welcomes that. Think about all the press conferences, Neil. I run that soundbite a lot, but I think it's great because he's like, this is why we do it. We welcome that. We know what the standard is. We don't know it any other way. We don't want it any other way. And I think that's cool. So it's an exciting weekend because the Chiefs cannot lose this weekend.
Which
We can
game
just watch.
do you most want to see on the AFC side this weekend?
Oh, I think the Broncos-Bills.
Me too.
Because I think it's a good matchup. I know the Steelers and Ravens kind of make for weird fights, but I just think the Steelers are
they're
a
cousins.
wounded,
They hate each other.
right. But I just think the Steelers are wounded duck, just like I think the Texans are too. And yeah, it's, either way, I think it's going to be the Bills and Ravens each winning, and the Chargers coming to Arrowhead. And then Neil, that Bills-Ravens game, oh, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be great if we get that. And then they're going to come limping into Arrowhead. They're going to get smacked, and then we're going to New Orleans, all right? You and I going to New Orleans. Well, I don't know if they'll let me go to New Orleans again, but last time we were there, we had a fun time. KU won it all. We almost died, but you know what? That's okay.
Well, yeah, and I must say, the one time I needed your help, I got it.
You did.
I'm down doing live shots at 4 a.m. with our morning crew, and you're up in editing in the hotel room about 300 yards away, and I called you and said, Mayday, Mayday, as a man with a knife is fighting another man, and they come in and the guy climbs in our company car. I've never had anything quite like that happen, and I've never heard your voice go up that high, but you know what? Mine was, Jared, I need help.
And then you hung up the phone. Like
well, no, because the guy was climbing in our car, and I was like,
So-
okay, do I have to beat him up with a microphone? Because I was gonna. That was the next plan, was me to hit him in the head with a microphone and say, get out of you're bleeding, get out of the car.
Folks, if you see, I don't know if this story is great for work. So, folks, if you see Neil and I, you want to talk about it, come up to us. But yes, Neil was doing all that. Then suddenly the phone ended and in the hotel room. And I've never run faster down a flight of stairs because I thought that might have been Neil's
I
goodbye.
called Danny
So,
first, but Danny was drinking coffee at 3 a.m. and said, or 4 a.m.
Shout out Danny Williams.
No,
okay.
I'm kidding.
Either way, if we go to New Orleans again, heck, that's why I should go to New Orleans, just be Neil's bodyguard because I'm 1 for 1 down there with that. Okay, we're going to go rapid fire through a lot of these other topics that are also interesting. Neil, starting with KU, they trailed at halftime last night, and KU fans were going through it against Arizona State, but then they come back and win by $1 billion. They're on the road to Cincinnati again this weekend. I think yesterday's game was a microcosm of what this KU team is. When they're good, man, they are great. But at times they're not going to be great, and they're beatable.
I thought they played pretty good defense against ASU the second half. They opened up.
Half, yes.
Yeah, they opened up the half and really started shutting stuff down. It was a perfect game for me. For what I was doing. I was anchoring the 10 o'clock show. The kid from Blue Valley Northwest.
That's what it's all about.
Alston Mason, who started at point guard for ASU,
Played well.
had a great game, but KU wins. And that's and nobody got hurt for KU. So I was thrilled. But they are not separating. Have you heard this before? Does it remind you of the Chiefs? KU's not separating from people.
Just like Mizzou football. Mizzou football had a lot of close games just like the Chiefs.
Yep.
But the thing with KU that I guess also applies to Chiefs and Mizzou, they've got dudes, Neil, but it's a puzzle. Like figuring out – like Bill Self has not solved this puzzle, which, listen, he doesn't need to. It's January 9th. I think he will by March, but there's guys coming in and out of the lineup. They're playing 9 guys. It's like sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and like we saw, it really worked against Central Florida. I was at the West Virginia game with someone who may or may not be imaginary, according to some people. And for the first 30...
We're studying the photos you sent me to see if they were digitized.
Yeah, we'll report back on a later stream. KU played awful for the first 30 minutes, got down like 20+, and then they came back and tied it with a second left, only to then lose. And it was just, it's like, it was so interesting to watch this team play terrible defense, not shoot the ball at all, and then suddenly, for a 10-minute stretch, play incredible defense and shoot the ball lights out. And it's like, I didn't know, and we saw that again last night. So I don't know what's making it.
I haven't seen enough of Kansas. We've been so football-centric and so busy. But I do look at the box scores and stuff. I'm not sure what to make of KU's outside shooting.
It's been inconsistent.
And
better than last year, but
no, you're right.
But not where it needs to be.
Zeke Mayo gives them something they did not have last year.
He's a stud.
And I'm happy to see him. He looked so bad for a couple of weeks. Well, it was what game was it that he'd been so good? He had been so good. Oh, it was the Arkansas game, the very first. He had been dominating practice, and then they go down to Fayetteville, and I was listening to the postgame show, Greg Gurley and Brian Haney, and they were saying, this is Zeke Mayo dominated practices, workouts. He was the best player on the floor, and he came out and was just shot blanks, and so they were concerned about that. So I'm glad to see him getting in the flow. I think he's a difference maker. He can create his own shot. He's a veteran player. He doesn't get rattled, and he's had the pressure of being the guy. Right,
South Dakota State,
and that's not a bad thing. Getting up in the morning knowing I got to have a good game for us to win. That's not a bad thing to have. I think Hunter Dickinson has had that on his shoulders quite a bit, and they got.
But it's harder for a big man to have that pressure rather than a guard like Mayo, right?
I don't know. I mean, you got to do what you do, but you're right. It's shooting the J is a lot different than being 7 foot.
Well, in today's college
down.
games where the three-point is, and Dickinson can shoot the three, but not like Mayo. So they're still coming together. But I think it's a good sign that we're at least seeing what the team can be in stretches.
And I think one thing we need to factor in on this is this league is a lot tougher than it was when it was the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma.
Right.
Texas and Oklahoma have had some good teams over the years, but I got news for you. What Kelvin Sampson's doing at Houston is the real deal. BYU. And BYU, it's interesting. I was talking to a guy up there who interviewed me about KU basketball, as a matter of fact, and K-State, as BYU was coming in. He said one thing that people have not factored in with BYU is, especially in basketball, we might not have the transfer outs that other schools have because our link a lot of times goes a little deeper than just basketball and just school. There's the religious element. There's a lot of history, heritage, family heritage, people going to BYU. And he compared it to Notre Dame. He thought Notre Dame might be a little bit the same way. It's just it is a blue chip for families of that persuasion. And I had not even thought of that.
No,
so it may be a factor. And they got the number one recruit in the country next year coming into BYU.
Changing times, just as is also changing times at Sporting KC, Neil. Alan Polito is no longer with the club. That news dropping this week. And it's strange, Neil, because he came over here. His first season was the 2020 season. Very odd. Most expensive player in Sporting history. He had many great moments, but never could stay healthy. He stayed healthy enough to earn a new contract that then really hindered the team since signing that because he just hadn't been on the field. They've really struggled. In soccer, when one of your designated players is out, it's tough to overcome. But he still, when Sporting was at its best over these last 5 years, a lot of times it was with Polito, and it's interesting to see this chapter closed without the level of success that many thought was almost guaranteed when he signed 5 years ago.
One of the guys out there told me when they got him, he said, wait till you see him. The quality of play is so much better than what we see in the MLS. Mm-hmm. This guy is a budding superstar. And, he played fairly healthy.
But even when he played, I don't know if he lived up to that.
But what I was going to say is I didn't see it.
Right, okay.
I did not see that he was one of those guys you went, oh, my gosh, he's going to be in the EPL. He's going to be in the English Premier League or he's going to be with one of the great
maybe that's
teams.
Not fair. I know he had moments, but at the level, again, of the hype and the level of the contract, like that's one of the unfair things in sports is that in salary caps, well, even not in salary caps, the expectation is that you live up to your contract. And I don't know if he did, but he still is a valuable player. And so it's part of this new rebuild. Daniel Shalhoub is the only guy that has been here since 2020. Well, Kyrie Shelton, I guess.
Yeah.
But then after that, I mean.
Look, they needed to make changes.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think we all would agree with that. And so it's hard to see guys that you root for and who you've dealt with who are very nice. You hate to see them leave. Yeah. But the reality is that sometimes people need to leave in professional sports.
Well, now they have someone new in the front office there that's making a lot of decisions, helping Peter Vermees be more of a coach. So we'll see how Sporting continues to evolve. Another decision this week, the biggest one being Royals re-signing Michael Lorenzen, but they also added infielders Kevin Biggio, son of Hall of Famer Craig Biggio, and Braden Shoemake, 21st overall draft pick back in 2019, who debuted last year. A little bit older for being a rookie, but used to be a top prospect for infield depth. So some minor moves, Royals, Neil. But the Michael Lorenzen move, I don't think is minor because, one, In 29 innings since the Royals traded for him, he had a 1.57 ERA last year. So he was an absolute stud for the boys in blue. And when you think about his role, Neil, the top 3 guys in the rotation are set. You got Cole Reagan, Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha. Then you have Alec Marsh and Chris Bubich. Both have been very successful for the Royals last year, but they're not as guaranteed. Now you add Michael Lorenzen, and I think you feel confident that you have 6 guys in there. And if Bubich has some struggles, or if Marsh has some struggles, okay, then you have Lorenzen, or maybe he starts in the rotation. Either way, Neil, this now gives them 6 guys that they can start the year with Marsh, Bubich, and Lorenzen also able to pitch in the bullpen. So I think this was a necessary addition to add depth. It's a 1-year deal with a 2nd-year option. I really like the pitching depth that Lorenzen provides.
Well, the one thing that we can say this year that we could not say is that we trust the GM, we trust the scouting department, and we trust the manager.
Yeah.
Okay, we thought we hoped all those things. Yeah. We all love J.J. Piccolo, and a lot of those people are people who've been around that work under him, have been around for a while. You wanted to believe in them. Well, now we have reason to believe in them. Right. Not just, blind loyalty.
I was about to say,
friendship.
I believed in him, but Neil was just like, hey, you're a fanboy, which is a fair comeback.
Well, but what I'm saying is they've earned
exactly
our respect now. This is not just respect we're giving them because they're wearing the right color jersey, or the hat,
Exactly.
So I do think that they have shown that they make some pretty good decisions. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Awfully early to know exactly what's going on in the division and everything else. But
it is January, and that's where it's been. They really only have one addition, and it comes via trade with Jonathan India. Biggio was a minor league contact. Shoemake will fight to make the 26-man roster, but they brought their big money move was bringing back Michael Wacha, who's a free agent. Now their second big addition, bringing back Michael Lorenzen. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of new blood they bring in outside of India. But Neil, I think to your point as far as trusting, that goes to the Jonathan India, because trading away Brady Singer, someone who's been really great at times, is a proven quality big league starter. There's trust that, okay, they know how to develop pitching now, that you can afford to lose a guy like Singer and bring in someone with an on-base pedigree like Jonathan India.
What the troubling thing about last season for me was the fact that they stumbled. They were so inconsistent the second half of the season. They had these swings where they get hot, and then they would go completely cold.
But that's kind of baseball, no?
Well, they had 2 really long losing streaks.
At the very end, after they lost Vinny Pasquantino.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm saying is really good teams don't lose a bunch of games in a row. You can go on a streak where you're really scuffling, but they didn't lose a lot of games in a row until September when they lost Vinny Pasquantino. But that was one of the hallmarks, Neil. They didn't have a 5-game losing streak until September. But then they had 2 really long losing streaks.
And so
that's for me, that's sort of
But that was without your number 3 hitter.
But in baseball, when you play 162 games, you're going to have guys miss.
I know, but okay, I will agree with you that the Royals without Vinny Pasquantino are not a great team. And if they lose Bobby Witt Jr., Vinny Pasquantino, or Salvador Perez, I think they're in trouble. But if those 3 guys stay healthy, Neil, and maybe that's what you're saying, you need more than
that's what I'm saying.
More depth.
That's what
I can't afford. Okay,
I was looking for them to add another, and they may still.
I hope they do. Because Neil, if they don't add one more bat, I'll be a little disappointed, because then maybe
your margin for error is that much less.
Because right now you're running out there with MJ Melendez in left field, Hunter Renfroe in right field. Ideally, that's a platoon between those 2 guys, in my opinion. Maybe Joey Wiemer can be great, but Jonathan India, he plays left field maybe. Michael Massey left field. So
we got 2 minutes to go.
Okay.
Before we wrap up.
All right.
Be honest. How many times do you check your Twitter feed about the Royals every day? Honestly.
Well, I check my Twitter feed 1,000,000 times a day.
For the
hoping
Royals.
for Royals. No, not just for Royals, but every time I see a Royals tweet, I go, ooh. And now they're starting to move a little bit. Listen, I know I'm fired up. I like. That's why I think, Neil, they're 1 bat away from being really great. And maybe that's Jonathan India.
They were 1 bat away from beating the Yankees.
I agree. Exactly.
Think about
that.
Forget the idiot in center field hitting 1,000,000 home runs, and I shouldn't say idiot. He seems like a nice guy. But the point is, forget him, the MVP.
That's what I mean.
If they have 1 more bat, the pathetic, terrible, horrible, small market little Royals would have beaten the Yankees.
And that's what fires me up. And maybe Jonathan India is that bat. They have added that, but by losing Brady Singer, I'd still like one more, but I know the payroll's high and they paid a lot of money to Michael Wacha.
They're investing in a new ballpark, basically.
I mean, that's...
they want a new ballpark. It'd be
but
good
I also
to win.
think they're smart in waiting because the prices in free agency, Neil, have been really exorbitant for most cases. I think there's an exception. Maybe they could have got Michael Conforto, who went to your Dodgers. But other than that,
everybody goes to the Dodgers or Yankees.
Right. And so, and the team, even them, they like a lot of people I think have overpaid. So I don't blame them on waiting, but I hope by the time opening day comes around that they have at least another bat in the lineup. Okay, well, go ahead, Neil.
I was going to say, the Dodgers, I think, didn't they pay $131 million in luxury tax?
Right, they're way over the...
$131 million.
The Mets, too. They're crazy over it. So.
And look what they've gotten out of it.
Well, no, they were in the National League.
I know. They came on late. You're right. You're right. They're in a bad situation in New York. They're like the Jets. I
don't know.
They get beat up. They get beat up by the media there.
This offseason's been pretty kind to... Juan Soto going across the street, Neil, that's